Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And today we're checking out not one, but two lights from Wuben. Shout out to Wuben for letting me take a look at these. Now, at first glance, you might notice that these are lights that look very similar, but also in many ways very different. And we're going to talk about their similarities. We're going to talk about why it might actually be a pretty good idea not to just get one, but rather to get both. Let's start off with some basic specs, starting with the E7. The Wuben E7 features 6 different modes, including low, medium, high, turbo, strobe, and SOS. In low mode, you can expect 5 lumens. Medium is 150 lumens, high mode is 400 lumens, and then of course turbo is 1800 lumens for a minute before it drops down to 800 lumens for a minute, and then 400 lumens for 1.2 hours. Strobe mode happens at 1000 lumens, and your SOS in those emergency situations is going to be 200 lumens. Next up, we have the Wuben X0 Night. This is also an angled EDC flashlight. Now this one has 7 different modes, including moon mode, which happens at 1 lumen, low at 15 lumens, medium at 50 lumens, high is 250 lumens, and then of course turbo, which is 1100 lumens. That'll last you a minute before dropping down to 300 lumens for 2 hours. Strobe happens at 1000 lumens. SOS happens at 50 lumens. But what makes this one really cool is that you can actually adjust the brightness levels. So if you want to get more out of your low, medium, or high modes, you can absolutely program it, not unlike the Wuben X3, to make sure that you get the brightness that you want out of all your different modes. When it comes to operating both the Wuben X0 and the Wuben E7, they're very, very similar, but do have a few minor differences. For example, both of these are a single click to turn on, and then you press and hold respectively to cycle through the different modes. But here's where they go a little bit different. For example, on the Wuben E7, a triple click will result in strobe mode. Triple click again, and it'll go to SOS mode. Meanwhile, on the Wuben X0, it's a double click to get into strobe mode, and then a double click again to get into SOS mode. Both of these lights are USB-C rechargeable. With the Wuben X0, you basically lift up on the firing button and the USB-C charging port is hiding underneath. On the Wuben E7, it's also on top, but it's not underneath the button, it's underneath this rubber flap. Now, a feature that really sets the Wuben X0 apart from the E7 is its EDC-friendly feature that comes from its bigger brother on the X2, and that is, of course, the ability to program the different lighting modes to include more or less power output. And so even if you're underwhelmed by the initial power output modes in low, medium, and high, you can, of course, customize that to get more juice out of each mode. Do be aware that when you do that, you do reduce the runtime. However, you can customize this to be completely unique to your preference. If you want to get the absolute most out of each mode, it is entirely up to you. Here's how you do it. Whenever you get to the mode that you want to customize, you simply double click and hold on the second click. And what you'll notice is it'll blink once, and then it'll start to ramp through the levels that it can go to in each mode. Whenever you get to a spot where you're comfortable, you just release, and it will in fact hold at that spot. Your light is now programmed to that level in that mode. After you've released, you can click and hold again to start scrolling through low, medium, and high. Here on the low mode, for example, I want to get the most out of this, so I'm going to double click and hold. I'll wait for the flash and continue to hold. And as soon as I get to a level that I want, this is now my new low mode. As you can see, it is way brighter if you go ahead and customize each mode to your liking. My personal preference is to just max out everything because that's exactly what I want. The Wuben E7 features two Osram P9 LEDs with an 1100 milliamp hour lithium battery, and that lithium ion battery is replaceable. Also, you can in fact include the battery tube extender so that you can add in a pretty sweet battery like this Wuben 18650. On the flip side, the Wuben X0 features an 18350 lithium-ion battery that is built in and not replaceable, and it is chargeable via USB-C type. In fact, both lights are. The difference being is that the Wuben E7 has a removable battery and the Wuben X0 does not. The Wuben X0 also features either a single Osram P9 or a Nichia 519AT. Depending upon whether you get one with an aluminum body or the titanium body. This version is going to have the titanium body. More about the differences, you'll notice that the Wuben E7 actually is a little bit taller than the X0, but not by a large margin. The Wuben X0 has more of an EDC style feel, and this is going to be one that you could 100% use in your everyday carry. It has this 3D milled titanium pocket clip, whereas the Wuben E7 has more of a stamped and bent steel pocket clip. Where things really start to get interesting is when you start looking at all of the different accessories specifically that you can use on either the E7 or in some cases, both of them. For example, check this out. When you order the Wuben E7, you can actually get it in 3 different packages. At the very basic level, the E7 is going to come with this headband so that you can attach the light directly as a headlamp. To attach the E7 as a headlamp, you simply just go ahead and insert it with the clip side down. It'll ride along this rail and snap into place. Once it's there, it can in fact be adjusted up or down. And then you might also be noticing this thing. This is an AP sensor which will respond to your hand movements. I think that that's pretty cool, especially if you don't want to be searching and fumbling for the button at the top of the E7 anytime you go to use it. You can just run your hand by this sensor and it plugs in directly to the USB-C port at the top of the E7. Pretty dang cool. To release the light from the headband, you just push down on this little clip right here, and the light comes free. Now, what's interesting and what a big reason why you might actually want both is that if you do use your light for some hands-free activities, maybe you need a headlamp, you can actually use the Wuben X0 in this same strap. Now, the one downside to the X0 in this headlamp is that if you do have this AP sensor, it's not going to be compatible with the Wuben X0, which is a bit of a bummer, but definitely not a deal breaker since the X0 does have this magnetic button here at the top, which is really easy to actuate. So in case you don't necessarily need to have the motion sensor on the light, you could still just go ahead and use it with the regular light button. Now, at a first glance, you may actually be thinking, you know what, the Wuben X0 just looks like it's a bit more advanced than the Wuben E7. I mean, after all, you can program the different lighting modes. You get titanium body with this really sweet titanium pocket clip. By the way, both of these have magnetic tail caps. However, the Wuben E7 is actually incredibly versatile. Aside from pushing out a bit more power than what you get in the X0, it also has the ability to be adaptable, especially once you bring into play the battery tube adapter. If you unscrew the tail cap on the E7 and remove the battery and throw in one of these. Now, depending upon what 18650 battery you get, if you were to, example, just use the Wuben branded batteries, that would take it from an 1100 milliamp hour battery to a 3100 milliamp hour battery, which is quite a difference in power. To make this happen, you just pop the battery in, screw in the battery tube adapter, and then pop on the magnetic tail cap. This is especially useful for people who are going to get the most out of that headlamp and are going to be using it for longer projects. After all, let's face it, if you're using a headlamp strap, chances are you might run out of this little battery in no time flat. Maybe you're shoveling the driveway. Maybe you're getting some work done and all the lights went out. No matter which way you spin it, having more is never a bad thing when it comes to making sure that you can illuminate whatever you're working on. With that being said, the nice thing is that if you have this and you also have the Wuben X0, if you run out of one, you can swap to the other no problem, and you essentially have 2 to 3 times the amount of battery power without ever losing your illumination. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, gee golly, that sounds good, but how much do these lights cost? For the Wuben E7, if you go for the Big Mac Daddy combination that has everything, including the headband, the battery extender, the APS-C sensor, all of that, you won't spend more than a whopping $59. For the amount of performance that you get out of this light, that's actually very impressive, and I think that it's one hell of a deal. On the flip side, if you want to get only the Wuben X0, the price is going to depend upon whether you get the version with the aluminum body and the Osram P9 LED, or whether you get one like this with the titanium body and the Nichia 519AT LED. The aluminum body version will cost $59, and by contrast, this titanium version will cost $138. Now, if you wanted to pick up one or both or one or the other, the good news is that if you use Wuben's website, I do in fact have a 20% off discount code, so you could essentially find yourself saving as much as $12 on the E7 or as much as $26 on the X0 Titanium by using the code REDC20. But I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. What do you think of the versatility of the E7 or the easy EDC nature of the X0? Let me know in the comments section down below. Have you picked one of these up? Are you planning on picking one of these up? If not, why not? Let's have a discussion. And by the way, if you want to watch more awesome knife and EDC content, make sure to click on one of the videos that pops up next.